Hi, in this video I'm going to explain the workflow for using Git and GitHub collaboratively. This video is targeted toward my Web Design 2 students, so I'm going to be making some specific references to a class project, but it should still be helpful if you are not in that class and you're just encountering this video on YouTube. So the process for using Git collaboratively involves taking an existing repo on GitHub and making a copy of that and making a copy of that to your computer, and then making your changes and pushing it back to GitHub. I'm going to go through all of these steps here that are involved in that process, and in this video I'm going to explain these a little more in depth and take you step by step how exactly to do each one. If you have watched this already and you want to just have a little refresher, a little reminder, I'm going to record another video that's just kind of like a synopsis of this that you can refer back to. Alright, so what we have right now is just a repo sitting here on GitHub, and for the class project, that repository is this hyperlinks website, and it's on my profile, DWDS. So that is the one that we are all working on together. Now, in order to show you how to do this, I have to fork a repository, and I can't fork my own repository, so I'm going to have to work from a different one just for the purposes of this video. So I'm going to use the good old spoon knife repository, which is created just for this purpose, for practicing this whole process. Okay, so I'm here in the spoon knife repository. Sorry, my video was too big there. I'm in the spoon knife repository, and actually let me move myself down here so you can see the fork button. So you need to be logged into GitHub, and to do the first step, fork, all you have to do is just click this little fork button. Boop. Okay, and GitHub is now creating your own copy of that repository. So it should now be under your username, and it'll say forked from. Mine says octocat/spoon knife. For my Web Design 2 students, yours will say forked from DWDS/hyperlinks website. And this should say whatever your username is /hyperlinks website. So this is your own version of the repository that you can make changes to, and you can do whatever you want, and it won't affect the original repository. And so if I can take a minute to update my diagram here, we've created a new repository using fork, and fork is unique to GitHub. That's not part of Git itself. That's just a feature that's built into the GitHub website. So you can't do that through the command line. You can only do that through the GitHub website. So that's what we've done. The next step is to clone. And clone means that we are going to take our remote repository and we're going to create a copy of that on our local computer. My light just turned on. Okay, so that's the next step, clone. I'll update my my diagram here with a local version of the repository and our working directory and our staging area. And if you're new to GitHub, or if you're new to Git rather, and you don't know what this stuff is, I'm not going to explain. I'm not going to explain this part of it very much in this video because we've already discussed that in class quite a bit. But what we're primarily concerned about is we are creating a copy of a clone of our remote repository onto our local computer. Okay, so that's the next step, clone. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to first figure out where we want to clone it to on our computer. So I'm going to first make sure my video isn't too big. There we go. So I'm going to just find the place on my computer where I want to save this. Now, when you clone it, it's going to create a folder for that repository. So you do not need to do something like this, where you would create a new folder and create a new spoon knife folder, because it's going to create that folder automatically. So don't do that. I'm going to delete that. Just find the place where you want that folder to go. So once you're there, then you need to right click and git bash here. This is for Windows. If you are on Mac, then you'll right click and open terminal here. Or if you are on Linux, then presumably you already know what you're doing. If you're not in my class, then we did a little initial setup to make that work. You have to install Git, and that will install on Windows. That will install Git bash as well, and on Mac, there's some settings you can change to make it where you can just right-click and open in terminal. All right, so the important thing is we have our command line open here, and we are in the folder that we want to create our repository in. So the command for this is git clone, and then we need to paste in the URL of that repository. So we are cloning your version of the repository. So for my students, that'll be your username / hyperlinks website. So make sure you're just looking at the right repository here. And then find the green clone or download button and just copy that URL. It will end in .git. And then paste that in here, and just remember that the normal Control-V shortcut doesn't work in Git bash, so you need to just right click and click paste and hit enter, and it clones, and now we have our spoon knife folder, and it has all of those files in there. It has the .git folder telling us that yes, this is in fact a Git repository. Alright, so we have forked and we've cloned. So let's look up the next step here. Let's skip over these asterisks. Step 3 is to create a branch of whatever feature you want to work on, and then make changes and commit. Now, before you do that, you want to make sure that the repository you're working on is up to date. And that's what fetch does. So I'll explain fetch more. I'll wait till the end really to explain how to fetch and rebase. But basically this is just a way to make sure that if other people have made changes to the upstream repository, that you are keeping your own files on your local computer up to date with the changes that have already been made. So if you have cloned and then you're immediately going to start working on the project, then you don't need to worry about fetching right here. But say if you cloned it a while ago and you're just starting to work on it, and there's already been other changes made after you cloned it, then you will need to go ahead and fetch before you start working on your own branch. Okay, so let's go ahead and get set up though to make some changes to this repository. So I'm going to just open that folder up in Atom. So I'm going to go File, Add Project Folder. I'm going to find the, there it is right there, it's already on there. The folder for the repository, select folder. I'm going to add the folders window. I want to permanently discard the save state. Yes, sorry. I was working on this before, so there was evidently like a previous file that didn't get totally deleted or something. So anyway, there's the spoon knife directory in Atom. There's the files, and down here, let me move my video one more time. Boop. Down here in the right-hand corner, you can see that here's the whole commit history. Well, not the whole commit history, the last 3 commits anyway, that other people have already made on this project. Okay, so the important thing to remember is that you always want to work on a branch. Do not work directly on the master branch. You want to create a new branch and do whatever you're going to do in that branch. So that is step 3, and Atom makes it very easy to do that. But let's first decide what we want to do. So let me open up the index file here, and I'm just going to make a simple change. I'm just going to delete these trailing slashes because I'm not a big fan of the old trailing slash. So I'll create a new branch. So in Atom, you just click down here on the branch name and click New Branch. Type the name of your branch. So I'm going to call mine Slashes. Hit Enter. Okay, and it shows us that we are now in the Slashes branch. So now we can make our changes. So I'll just delete the slashes, save, and there's no good place to put my webcam video because there's stuff all over the screen here. Okay, so now up in the top right we see unstaged changes. Our index file has been modified. So I'm going to click Stage All, write my commit message, remove trailing slashes, and click Commit. Alright, so I have made my commit, which is the 4th step here. Presumably you're going to have several commits. You're going to be doing more than just one little thing, but let's say that that's all I want to do. I've made all the changes I want to make, and I'm ready to incorporate this into the upstream project. So before I do that, I want to again make sure that no other changes have been made, that the version I'm working on is the most up-to-date version, and that everything works together. So I'm going to come back to fetch and rebase. Let me just first explain pushing and making a pull request, because those are really easy, really straightforward, and we'll come back to fetch. Alright, so when you push, let me update my diagram here. When we push, we are taking our local repository and all the commits that we have made to that and pushing those commits to our version of that repository on GitHub. The final step is to create a pull request and kind of like forking. A pull request is something unique to GitHub. That's not part of Git. That's also something that you can only do on the GitHub website. So to make a pull request means that you are requesting that the owner of this upstream repository incorporate the changes that you've made. So that's all pretty straight. Both of these are pretty much just the push of a button. Really easy. So before we do that, let's go back and let's talk about fetching. Fetching means to get the most recent version of a remote repository and download or copy or move, whatever you want to say. Get those changes, those most recent commits on your computer. And so it's kind of like cloning. It's kind of like when we, created our clone to create the repository in the first place. But it's different in how it works, and in that it's clone is to create a repository in the first place, and fetching is to update it. So when we fetch normally, like Adam has a built-in fetch option here, but what that is going to do is fetch from your, if I can get it on camera, it's going to fetch from your version of the repository. I cannot do this. This is impossible. Oh my god, I'm sorry. It's like backwards. It's really hard for me to figure out where I'm pointing here. There we go. Okay, so the built-in option Adam to fetch is going to fetch from your version of the repository to your local computer. What we want to do instead is fetch from the upstream repository and get those changes to our local computer. And so in order to do that, we're going to have to do a little setup so that we can, so that Adam knows where we want to fetch from. All right. And to do that, we have to go back to the Git Bash terminal. Let me resize my video. Oh my god. Oh my god. So difficult. There we go. All right. So let's set up our fetch. We are going to need the URL that we want to fetch from. So again, that's the URL of the remote upstream repository. So for my students working on this Web 2 project, that is going to be this one right here. DWDS/hyperlinks website. Not your version of it that you forked, but this original version that has my username on it. And you will just go down here to clone or download and copy the URL. So the URL should have DWDS in it. That's my username. For me, I need to get the spoon knife, the original Octocat spoon knife. Okay, grab that URL. And in Git Bash, before we type in this command, we want to make sure we're in the correct folder. So right now we're in this folder. We're here, and we want to be in here, inside our actual Git repository folder. So you can just right-click and inside here and open Git Bash here. If you're feeling adventurous though and you want to do a little more command line, then you can type CD, which stands for change directory, space, and then just begin typing the name of the directory that you want to move into. So again, for my students, that should be like, it should be called Hyperlink's website, the name of the repository. For me, it's Spoon Knife, and you can just type the first couple letters and hit tab, and it will autofill the rest. Hit enter, and this is what we're looking for. We want to be in that directory, and we know we are in a Git repository because it tells us which branch we're looking at here in parentheses. So just make sure that you do that before we set up our upstream URL. So the command for this is git. Before I do this, I'm going to type git remote -v just to show you. Right now, here are the remote repositories that we're dealing with. This is my version of Spoon Knife. Okay, so to add the upstream repository, we want to git remote add upstream and then paste the URL. Oops. Okay, something weird happened here. Git remote add upstream paste. Okay. Let me copy that again. Copy. Paste and enter. There we go. Okay, and there's not any kind of like confirmation or message or anything. So to check to make sure this worked, you can type that command git remote -v, and now where before we just saw those two origin URLs, now we have the two upstream ones as well. Okay. So if you don't see this, then something didn't work correctly. So you want to make sure that you see those upstream URLs. Okay, so that is just to get it set up, so that Git knows where to fetch from. So to do the actual fetch, we need to type git fetch upstream. Hit enter, and okay, it created 3 branches. I guess there must be multiple branches on the Octocat repository. The important one that we're looking for is this one, upstream master. So we can, ignore these. On the hyperlinks project, there will only be one, just the master branch. So it tells us that it has created a new branch called upstream/master. And if we go back into Atom and we look at our branches, we just have master. There's no upstream master. We're not going to see that option in Atom, but we can confirm that it's there with this command. Git branch will list all the branches, but it's not actually all the branches because it doesn't show the upstream branches. So git branch -va will show everything, and we can see that yes, we do have in fact a remote upstream master branch. So what we want to do now is merge this into our master branch. So this branch right here, this upstream/master, that is the most up-to-date version of the upstream repository. It is the most up-to-date version of oh my gosh, it's the most up-to-date version of this guy right here. Okay, and so we've made we fetched that to our local computer, but we want to actually be able to see it and to merge it with our master branch on our repository. So to do that, it's just like any other merge. So we've merged branches before in class. You first switch to the branch that you want to merge into. So right now we're in slashes. We want to check out the master branch. So we're switching to master. You can see right here it says your branch is up to date with origin master. Origin master is your master branch on your GitHub, on your fork repository. That's origin master. Upstream master is master on the upstream repository. So we're in master, so now we just need to merge, git merge upstream master. Enter. And in this particular case, we're already up to date. So nobody has made any changes to that repository in the time that we cloned and made our changes. It's likely, though, for a collaborative project that there will be some changes that have been made. So once you do this, then that means that I'm recording a video. I'm sorry, I'm recording a video. Can you talk to you later? Sorry about that. I need to put a sign on my door. Where was I? Oh, so what this means now is that when we're in Atom and we are looking at the master branch, everything that we see here is up to date with that version of it on the upstream repository on GitHub. So that is a way for us to just check and make sure that the changes that we've made are still going to work. And so what we will do next is to rebase. And we haven't talked about rebasing in class, but the idea of rebasing is that you created a branch here. So like here's a commit on the master branch. You branched off of that, started making commits. In the meantime, other people made commits to the master branch. So we have fetched and we've updated our master with those new commits. And now rebasing is kind of like changing the history a little bit so that it's as if our feature branch branched from here instead of back here. So we will, what's the command for that? I'm blanking on that. Git fetch, git branch, rebase, git rebase. Okay, so right. So we want to now check out the branch that we have been making changes to. So that is, in my case, that's called slashes. So git checkout slashes. Okay, so I'm on my branch, and then I'm going to rebase that. Git rebase master. Okay, and it didn't really do anything in this case because everything was already our fetch was everything was already up to date. So you might see some other stuff there. So at that point, once you've done that, then you just want to just make sure everything's still working as intended. It's possible that there might have been some conflicts when you tried to merge stuff. Hopefully not if you as long as you didn't mess with the master branch at all. But if you encounter any merge conflicts, then you just need to resolve those manually. I'm not going to talk about how to do that in this video, but for my students, if that happens to you, then just let me know, and we can, if you're not sure how to deal with it, then we can look at that in class. So now that we have everything up to date, I'll go ahead and show you let's go back to the last two steps here, push and pull requests. Like I said, they're really super easy. All we have to do is in Atom, it's built into Atom. So all we have to do is make sure we're on our branch, the feature branch as it's called, whatever your branch is called where you were making the changes. And then we click here. It might say push, or if it doesn't say push, then you just have to right click and hit push, and it will push those changes to your GitHub repository. It might make you log in if you're not already logged into GitHub through Atom, then it might pop up with a GitHub login window. So, alright, so that has been pushed. So now, if I go to my repository on GitHub, I should be able to see the changes that I made. I'm on the master branch here, so if I switch to my slashes branch, then I'll see, yes, so there's the most recent commit, remove trailing slashes. I can click on the index file and actually see the changes that I made. So now, the final step is the pull request. GitHub is kind of smart about it. It sees that there have been changes here that have been made, so it automatically pops up with this button, compare and pull requests. So go ahead and click that green button there. And it automatically fills this in for us. But what we're looking for here is that here on the right, this is the name of my forked repository, the feature branch that I was working in called slashes, and we're requesting that this be merged into the master branch of the upstream repository. And it tells us it's able to merge, there's no issues here. And then here's where you would leave a comment about explaining why you think these changes should be incorporated. So remove trailing slashes. Yeah, I was gonna type something. Sorry, like I don't like them, which is not a good reason, but type whatever makes sense for you to let other people know. Just kind of give them a synopsis of the changes you made and why. So I'm just going to leave that one blank for me, and then just click create pull request. Alright, and then it'll take you to the page for that pull request on the upstream repository, and from there it's up to other people to look at and decide whether or not they want to incorporate your changes. You might get comments on it. Anybody can leave comments here about the changes that you've made. They might comment directly on your code. They might make requests for you to like change something before they close the pull request. So yeah, just pay attention to any comments or requests that people are making, and once all that's resolved, then the owner of that repository will accept your pull request, and that's all. That's the end of the process. So I hope that was useful. I hope that made sense. And again, I'm going to record one more video that's just kind of like boom, 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 just going through all those steps quickly with less explaining, so that if you want to just refer back to that, then you can do that more quickly. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.